Are you creating a movement that you know will change the world? Are you curious to know how to help others see your vision too? Stick through to the end of the video because I'm going to tell you my 4 non-negotiables to designing and branding a movement. If you're an activist or change maker and you want more content just like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, click the like button below, and join me every week where I'm going to share more content like this. I'm Komal. I design impactful movements. We premiered our first documentary film at the Obama White House, and I was named to Oprah's Super Soul 100 list for the movement we created about female entrepreneurs. Now let's get into how you can use design and imagery to create a movement that will change the world. Now, step 1, be okay with the fact that your movement needs a brand. We are in a social media age. We are in an age where imagery speaks volumes. Every image speaks for 1,000 different ideas, words, beliefs, and you can hook people into the change you're trying to create in the world just by a brand, just by a design aesthetic, just by one Instagram post. So don't diminish the fact that your movement requires a brand. I promise you, because there are movements that have been elevated by intentional brand design. Now let's get into what movements those are. Now, step 2 to designing and branding your movement is to keep it simple. Now, the one movement that comes to mind is Obama's 2008 political campaign. Now, when I say that, and if you're old enough, it will evoke 2 phrases in your mind, 2 slogans. One is hope, and one is yes, we can. Those are words that are embedded in my mind when I think of Obama, when I think of the change he created in 2008. And to show an example from this last election as well, MAGA, Make America Great Again. You saw the red and the white with Obama, you saw the blue and the white, and you really saw these political campaigns dive into the visual aesthetic of what they were trying to do. In fact, in 2008, Obama won Marketer of the Year for Ad Age. I don't know if that's ever happened where a politician got that kind of acknowledgement for the brand that they built. The one image that stays with me is inclusive of one of Obama's campaign slogans, hope, but it's also an image that has stuck with us for about a decade now. Shepard Fairey was commissioned to make this image. This one image has stuck with me and millions of others for over a decade. In fact, the Women's March has used similar imagery for their campaign because they know what feelings it evokes in the population. So you can never underestimate what a brand, what an image, what an illustration can do for a campaign. Now, step 3 to designing and branding your movement is to keep it intersectional. Part of branding overall is your messaging, is how you communicate your movement. And we saw this with the Parkland students and the March for Our Lives. They were very intentional about making sure their movement was as inclusive as possible. And it could be a generational thing because they're young and it's a part of their DNA just growing up the way that they have. To have queer people as part of the movement, to have it be racially inclusive, to share the voice and the platform that they had with disenfranchised communities. It was an incredible thing to watch. You'll also notice on their Instagram feed that there was a specific point in time when March for Our Lives became more than just what this little group of students was trying to create to stop gun violence and to increase gun control in the US. There was also a point for the March for Our Lives when you could tell that someone came in, a designer came in, or a branding expert, and created a brand for the march. You see their use of blue colors, of grays and beiges, and you saw it in the posters that were handed out across the March for Our Lives when it happened in Washington, D.C. There was an intentionality with this because for something to continue to go viral, the aesthetic needs to be there. It is inextricably linked now to how we build movements, is how we see movements. So don't forget it. But also, they were so intentional about keeping the intersectionality that they had, staying true to that, while they built out this branding part of it. So you don't have to be too concerned that you're going to lose your voice. Whatever, your brand can actually help amplify your overall mission for your movement. Now, have you ever seen a single image and been called to act for a movement or a social justice initiative? If you have, comment with warrior below. One image that will always stay with me is the image of the child Syrian refugee who had passed away and whose body was on the beaches of Turkey. That one image sparked a movement around the world, an outcry against the Syrian refugee crisis. There was more international coverage, there was more aid dollars going in, and it was a photo that a photojournalist took, and they didn't even know the impact that that image would have. The same thing happened with the Obama campaign with the Hope poster. Shepard Fairey wasn't actually commissioned to draw that poster for Obama, but once it was up and it started going viral, the campaign took it on as their own. So you don't know what could happen from one image or one design and how that can transform a movement. This leads me to step 4 for designing your movement: bringing on the right design team. My creative director, Rhaenyra, and I have been working together for almost a year, and I knew from the moment I met her that she could be inside my brain helping me design the aesthetic of all the things that I want to create for you and all of the things that I want to build around this movement that I'm creating for authentic and real conversations and to uplift the lives of women and girls everywhere. And once I knew I had her beside me and she was going to help me do this thing, it was a total game changer. I felt unleashed. It made me feel like I could do the important work of communicating the movement, and she could help me do the visual work of designing and uplifting the movement through design. So bring on the right people, make sure you're matched together, and bring on someone with a skill set that can amplify the voice of the movement that you're trying to create in the world. So now you know how to design a movement, but if you're feeling like you need to go back and figure out what movement it is that you want to help with, go back to my Movement Building 101 video from last week. And to keep the conversation going, head over to my Instagram at Komal Minhas to see videos that I'm putting out just for you every single day. And in the comments below, tell me about the movement that you're working on right now, however big or small it might be. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe and hit that notification bell in the corner because I'm making new content like this every Tuesday just for you. See you guys next week.